So yeah, it was it was magic. There you go.
Brilliant. Okay, well that's covered off like our Magic Weekend chat. In terms of that, we'll get back to the Magic Weekend and the games because that's really where the real show was, rather than in Chicken Cottage. So we'll get round to the games after we dig deep into news from around the world of rugby league. News now from around the world of rugby league, sponsored by littlewarden.com. If you have a website, then visit littlewarden.com and see what they can do to help you. They can help you with domain expiration checks, redirects, and all sorts of other important background web stuff that they'll make simple for you. Little Warden, monitoring the tedious. And we're going to start with a big news story out of the Wigan Warriors. Probably the first big news story out of the Wigan Warriors that's really come as a huge surprise.
I was going to say it's the first surprising news story out of Wigan all year.
Yeah.
You know,
Wigan Warriors head coach Sean Wayne is to leave the club at the end of the 2018 Super League season. The former Wigan forward, who's 53, was initially Michael Maguire's assistant before he succeeded him as head coach at the start of the 2012 campaign. Wayne led Wigan to two Super League Grand Final wins, a Challenge Cup win, a League Leaders Shield triumph, and a World Club Challenge during his time at the helm. And of all the, this is what I'd heard a rumor. I'd heard rumours about this, but no one I really trusted had substantiated that
mm,
rumour. So I was a little bit surprised when this did formally break. And I'm still registering kind of what it means for the club. So in terms of Sean Wayne himself, I think he's done a good job. It's not always been an exciting job. His first two seasons, 2012 and 2013, were two of the most brilliant seasons you could imagine being a Wigan fan. We won the League Leaders Shield in one of them, played some outstanding rugby before a couple of um, significant injuries or stuff like that kind of hit us right at the back end. 2013 was the double winning year, and you know a joy-filled year. Both years scoring lots of points, defending really well, doing everything you'd want your teams to do to be on top. And then came a run of grand final defeats, which weren't necessarily joyous. And then came 2016, which was one of the hardest years to watch Wigan that I've experienced, just because the rugby wasn't very exciting and it never felt like we were going to quite be good enough. But we won the grand final that year, which was quite remarkable. And then 2017 was Wayne's only year that really couldn't be seen as a success, even though he got us to a Challenge Cup final. The league season, the league campaign wasn't up to scratch, even though it started with the most important trophy, arguably, that he's won, bringing the World Club Challenge title back to English shores for the first time for some time. So I think he's going to have to be remembered for having done a cracking job and won a lot of trophies. Now, I'm going to remember what he did for the club fondly overall, I would say. But he's been our longest serving coach in the Super League era, so there's
yeah,
often
7 years
times that
is a
things.
long time when you think about it.
Yeah,
You know, it's a long period for any coach to kind of it's time for him. He obviously handed over from Madge and kind of and inherited a successful team, and he took that forward. But he's had I've seen things written today about the number of young players that have come through during his time. You know,
and
winning
that's definitely
silverware.
something that wasn't happening, before he was before he was in the club. So he came back to the club in the coaching capacity or scouting capacity actually, and then ended up being a coach through the grades and came all the way up through coaching all the grades. So yeah, that is a good part of his legacy that he'll have at Wigan. So certainly I agree.
But yeah, it's an interesting one. I think we were saying just before, weren't we, about you've got obviously some you could argue your iconic player going. Obviously, you've signed somebody to replace him, but and then you've got your coach going. So
There's a big turnaround. Like yeah, you're right. Head coach, best
it could
players
be a
so far this
transition year.
season. There's Ryan Sutton. We know without it being confirmed that he's going to be in the NRL next year. It's everything's pointing to that. And John Bateman, who at the start of the season I was resigned to losing, then about a month or so ago I was pretty confident things were going to line up for him to stay, and now I'm I'm swung right back, and I'm almost certain that he is going, um, and Sean O'Loughlin and Thomas Lula, why there's question marks over whether they'll play on next year at this stage. We don't really know. So
Well, I was going to say you know, being brutally honest with lockers, you're living on borrowed time, really, aren't you? You know, you kind of you can see him almost physically breaking down in front of
we
you,
can
and you've
smash the
just
other
got
top
to.
teams without him.
Well, no, okay, this weekend proves that, I suppose. But yeah, you know, he has, you know, he's been the most important player for you for years. So if he features in 50% of games next year, which might be,
I
which
know.
might be optimistic. So I don't want to be talking you down here when you're not at your best, but yeah, no, it's just, every team goes through it. Wigan have been better than most at covering up for these kind of things, but every team has it.
So
In recent years, Leeds have had it, Warrington have had it. They've come back. So
I don't doubt,
I
yeah.
wouldn't.
I don't doubt that
You know,
even if there's a transition that goes on, Wigan will be a strong side. In this competition, there's two things to speculate on now, isn't there? The first thing to speculate on is who's Wigan gonna hire as his successor. The fans are salivating at the idea of bringing Sean Edwards back to the club. I'm not sure that that's going to come off because there's still lots of interest for him in very senior positions in the rugby union game. Um,
yes,
and it's a long time he's been involved in rugby league, but I don't doubt that he could
I
transition
was going
back
to
into
say,
it very comfortably and very easy, as long as you have the right team around him. There's been mention of people like Paul Deacon who've left the club in the recent past, but have got very strong foundations under them in terms of a coaching career, and obviously some of our senior players that are moving on. Into the world of coaching at some point in the near future. Names will get thrown out there, but I think it's far too early to be suggesting someone like John O'Loughlin should transition into a head coach role from a captain role. That's not where I see
yeah,
that going at this
it's a bit early
stage.
for him. Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, so there's lots of interest there. I think it's too early for us to say anything. I'm not I'm not sure whether I prefer to bring someone back into the club who's familiar with the club and good foundations in the game in this country, or whether I want to get someone from the NRL. Because when we brought someone in from the NRL last time, it was to fix something that was kind of broken. And St Helens did the same thing last year. Warrington did the same thing ahead of this year. We're
yeah,
probably not dealing with something that's broken because this has been Sean Wayne's best year since 2013. So far, I would say. So, um, I think we'll go down the angle of looking around what's available in this country first of all and seeing what we can do there. And then there's what Sean Wayne's going to do next because he's talking about taking up a new challenge and progressing his career and those sorts of things. So what do you think that means?
well, if those words mean what they mean, that's not the Catalan job. In my opinion, if you're talking about if that what it if it means what it means or what it suggests that it means, it's possibly international or the NRL, isn't it?
Well,
Um,
there's three options. I believe. I don't believe the rugby union option that has been mooted around us going in and doing a job there. Because there's rumours of him getting involved in the Scottish Rugby Union setup and things like that in the past. I don't see that as coming to the fore really with Sean Wayne. I know everyone thinks he's just a man motivating, shouting in the dressing room and get everyone going, but that's not, from my understanding of things, that's not how he actually realistically operates, and he's actually pretty
no,
shrewd about things. But so I don't think that's going to be an option. I don't think he'd be suited there. Be an interesting one to see. The three options that I think is realistic is one of them is some sort of role in the international game. But Bennett's tied down now, isn't he, for a couple of seasons? But uh, Wayne
yeah,
definitely
but
has shown his interest in coaching England or Great Britain even going forward. So that's something that would appeal to him if there was
yeah,
an opportunity there. The second option is the NRL, like you're saying, is the kind of person who'd want to take on that sort of challenge, whether it be given a head coaching job in the NRL coming over from England, they don't really necessarily respect us very much. That'd be a strange thing to see. But then at his age, in his in his mid-50s, with the experience he's got behind him, would he want to go and do a back, like a number two role over there? I'm not so sure. So the third realistic option, I think, is a director of coaching type role at somewhere like Catalan, where he's been rumoured to be going because his favourite players are there now, or will be next year. And I sort of think that might be a realistic option. And of the three options, I think that's the option that seems the most realistic to me. Um, but it'll be interesting to find out. What do you think? Do you think those three options are the right sort of three options, or do you think there's anything else I've not thought of?
Well, I mean, obviously Bennett signed a contract, hasn't he? But we all know that Bennett can walk away from walk away from commitments before. So it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if that situation was to change. And Wayne will be
Yeah,
a credible candidate for that. In terms of NRL, it's difficult, isn't it? Because we tend to see the reverse, don't we? We tend to see assistants coming over here to cut their teeth in a head coaching role. Obviously, we've had head coaches go over there to be assistants, but it's more when they've gone between the tail between the legs, haven't they? I'm thinking Matt Banana and people like that. They've gone to rebuild reputation rather than enhance it. And as I said, he's going out with a good reputation. So to me, my favourite, I think international is the way forward. It might be a 1 year, 18 months transition period, let kind of Bennett disappear off into the sunset, and Wayne will take it up because as you say, he's still got years on his side, hasn't he? He's not old, so he'll
yeah.
have you could have a couple of World Cup campaigns in him easily. So this is the thing, after the Wigan job, and what job do you want really? And it's
That's it.
it's going to be
He's given
difficult.
up his dream job, so we'll be interested to see because he's chosen to go out, which I think is a good thing because it means he doesn't get sacked. Because at some point, every coach gets
Yeah,
sacked, don't they? Well, not every coach,
um, um,
obviously. This has proved that to be the case. But most coaches get sacked at some point, and this has avoided
yes.
that for him. So it helps him shape his own legacy, and hopefully, just like I spoke about last week about Sam Tompkins, Sean Way will go out on a high with a couple of trophies in his pocket from a Wigan fan's point of view. The next story.
Yeah, well, sorry, just a brief one, just to say in terms of not going out on a high. You don't want a situation like a Wenger kind of situation where the kind of
Or like
players
a
that kind of
McDermott
fans are wanting them
situation at
out,
Leeds, a
or a
little bit
McDermott
potentially, even
situation.
though he won the grand
Yeah,
final last year, so you can't doubt him on that. Yeah, I do think that's a neat way to think about it.
yeah.
Sure.
Get get off the stage while they're still shouting more, kind of thing, rather than booing you off, type thing.
Yeah. And this year we are shouting more, whereas last year probably not so much. Okay, we're gonna go through the rest of the stories without much comment. So we'll alternate through these. I'll start with one that
Yeah.
we've talked about and speculated long and hard, and a couple of weeks ago got good coverage on the show. So we're not gonna comment on anything further than that. Wigan Warriors have signed former Castleford and Leeds fullback Zach Hardacre, who will join them when his 14-month drugs ban ends in November. The England international, who's 26, is serving a suspension after testing positive for cocaine in the build-up to 2017 Super League Grand Final. The 2015 Man of Steel has agreed a 4-year deal with the Wigan Warriors.
What a surprise. Anyway, yeah, let's not talk about that. Okay, so Hull FC have signed Doncaster halfback Liam Harris for an undisclosed fee on a 2.5-year deal, whilst retired centre Kirk Yeaman has re-registered. Harris, 21, came through the City of Hull Academy and spent time with the Black and Whites in pre-season, and Yeaman, 34, retired at the end of the 2016 season after 374 appearances for the club. And maybe he should have stayed retired, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and obviously Harris is back with them. Sort of. I
Yeah.
didn't know he was on the radar, but both played this weekend, so I'm sure we can have more to say about the two of them when we get to the game reviews. Okay, someone who didn't
Yes.
play this weekend and won't be playing after the end of this year is Widnes Vikings forward Chris Houston, who's going to retire at the end of this season. The 33-year-old second rower joined the Super League side in December 2015, so for the 2016 season, having spent the rest of his career before that playing in his native Australia, and is now going to retire at the end of of this year. It doesn't feel like he's been there 3 years, so he must have been injured a lot.